Have you got a PlayStation Portal and are wondering what it takes to get the best internet connectivity so that you have the best experience? This is the video that you've been looking for. Hello and welcome back to Gears and Tech. The PlayStation Portal has been out for a little while now, and some of you have been having connection issues. Some of you have been wondering, is there a better way to get the absolute best connection from my PlayStation Portal on my home network or on the go? We are going to cover everything that I know about connectivity to the PlayStation Portal, and it's all starting right here in this video. I do need to pre-warn you guys, this video is going to get quite in depth into a lot of settings in your router, into settings in your PlayStation 5, and just general connectivity stuff. I understand that this is going to be new for some people and it's going to be old news for others. So it's very hard to have a very technical video that covers people who are new to this kind of thing while still keeping those who know what they're doing already engaged. The ones who know what they're doing already, you just want to know the settings, the ports to forward, and all of that. The great news is I will put that info in the description. You can probably skip half of this video, just look at the ports in the video, go ahead and set your IP on your PlayStation to be fixed and set up the port forwarding, and you're probably okay. If that's not enough information for you, then you will need to stay and follow along with this video. But we understand it's going to be a little bit basic for some of us, and it's going to be new for some others of us. We'll walk that line together, but let's work through this. Before we get too far into this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel down below. If you've seen some of our content already and have not subscribed, we want you to join our community. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and let's get back to the video. Now, the first thing you want to do is go to your PlayStation 5 and actually set up your IP address so that it doesn't keep changing. We need to have a fixed IP address for your PlayStation 5. Now, if you don't know what an IP address is, we'll explain it real quick. It's basically like the home address at your house. If someone wants to find you, they look for your house number on your street. Well, your PlayStation 5 is no different. It has a home address on your home network. So the last three numbers of your PlayStation IP are going to be the home address of the PlayStation 5. These are the numbers that we're going to use to do everything else that we're going to do. So you need to go and do that first, and then we'll come back here and move on to the rest. So I'm going to go to my PlayStation 5. I'm going to show you how to set up a fixed IP address on your PlayStation 5, and then we'll come back. So now we're going to talk about how to set your internet connection up on your PlayStation 5. Now, this is not the only way to do it. You can actually do it on your router, which I will show you later on in this video. But if you want to do it on your PlayStation 5, this is the way to do it. We're going to start by pressing the triangle button to pull up the settings up over there. We're going to hit X. We're going to go to our network, and we're going to go to settings, set up internet connection. Now I'm on a LAN connection, and then all we're going to do is press the button right here on the controller to pull up the advanced settings. And then in here, we're going to go to IP address settings. We're going to switch it from automatic to manual. Before you do that, you may want to go to view connection status. Now in this screen, there's three things that we want. We want the IPv4 address. That is the address of the PlayStation 5. We also want to look at the subnet mask, which is almost always 255.255.255.0. And then we also want to check the default gateway. Those are the three things that we're going to need to know for our manual settings. So now we're going to go into settings. We're going to go set up internet connection. We're going to pull up the settings. We're going to go to advanced. We're going to go over to IP and say manual. Then we're going to type in those numbers that we saw. So we saw 192.168.50. In this case, we're calling it 127. You can call it whatever you want, but in my case, it was 127 already. So we're going to leave it as that. The subnet mask is 255.255.255.0. Default gateway. That will be the IP address of your router.
192.168.50. Done. Once those are entered, we also want to go to the primary DNS. This is going to be exactly the same as the default gateway, 192.168.50, and then that's it. Now it's going to do a test connect to the internet, and then it's going to say connected. Now you can do a speed test, and let's just see what kind of speed we get out of this. 604 megabits per second, which is not too bad. And our upload speed hopefully will be pretty good as well. 19 megabits per second, which is plenty fast enough for our upload speed. Now, a couple things to know on here. So just because the IP address was 127 doesn't mean it needs to stay 127. If you have a different number you want it to be, make it that number. That's okay. The subnet mask has to be correct, and the default gateway and the primary DNS have to be correct. But as long as you've set these settings, let's go back to the computer and start configuring our router.
Now that we've set our fixed IP address on the PlayStation 5, there's something else that we should have talked about, and I hope we talked about it already, but it's very, very important for the best internet connection to have a LAN connection. That means a wired connection. Somehow you need a wire to go from your router to your PlayStation 5. If that's not possible, there are other options, and I'll talk about them right now just so that you know. I'm not going to go through setting those up right now, but they are a good option. There's devices known as Powerline Ethernet devices. So these are devices that will plug in near your router. It'll have an Ethernet cable that plugs from your router into the device, and then over wherever your PlayStation 5 is, you can plug the receiver into the wall and then another Ethernet cable and plug it into your PlayStation 5. These are good options, and if you buy the right one, it will be better than Wi-Fi. I will put a link in the description for ones that are better than Wi-Fi. Keep in mind, if you're on 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, it's probably pretty good. It's just not the best. So you don't want to get a cheap Ethernet over power line device, which would be worse than Wi-Fi. Okay, so don't just find one that's cheaper and say that one's better. I'm going to link you to one that will be better than Wi-Fi. And especially if you have to use the 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, that Powerline Ethernet device is probably what you're looking for if hardwire is not an option. So consider that. You want to have the best connection to your PlayStation 5 from your router. LAN is the best, Powerline Ethernet second best, Wi-Fi second best. Wi-Fi is not going to be impossible, but Wi-Fi is not going to be the best. That's all I want to say about that. The next thing we need to do is actually connect into our router. I will show this on a phone. There's a great website. It's called portforward.com. I will put a link in the description, which you can click, and it covers lots of routers, and it shows you exactly how to access exactly what you're looking for port forwarding. So these steps are going to be slightly different depending on the router that you have. So the first thing that I'm going to do is go into the settings on my phone for my internet. And I'm going to do that just by long pressing the internet toggle on my phone. This is an Android phone. If you have an Apple phone, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Once we get there, I'm going to click on this setting in Secure Connection 5G. That's what my Wi-Fi is called. I'm connected to it already. And what I want to do is scroll to the tab here that says Gateway. The gateway is the number that we need to know to do what we're about to do. Now, most routers are going to be 192.168. Always is that. But the next part, a lot of them will be .1.1. Some of them will be .10.1. So in my case, the IP address that I'm looking for is 192.168.50.1. Now, the next thing you want to do is open up an internet browser. Now, this is the part where if you have a laptop, I strongly recommend you go to your laptop and type this in. If you don't have a laptop, you can do it on your phone, and we're going to try and do it on our phone, even though it's a little bit more annoying on our phone. But we're going to type in 192.168.50.1. Now it's going to bring you to your router homepage. If you've never logged into your router before, probably your username is admin and your password is admin, but depending on the router, it'll be different. So you can look up online the model of router that you have and then connect those credentials in. Now I'm going to log in. My password and username has been entered, and now I'm on the home screen of my router. Now, this is not a very good phone-enabled UI. So the UI that I see right here is exactly the same as what I would see on my computer. So one thing that I do, and I'm going to zoom in just so I can read it because I got bad eyes. I showed you guys already how to assign your PlayStation IP address on the PlayStation. If you wanted to skip that step, and I told you that you could skip this step when we went to the PlayStation, I said, you can do this on the router as well. Now, personally, I do this on the router. On my particular router, I can pull up the client list, as you saw there, and then on the side here, I can go to wired, and then I can pull up every wired device. Now, mine is wired, so I have renamed mine already, Daddy's PS5 Slim. Now, when I open this up, I can see all the details about my PlayStation 5. What I've done in my case is said MAC and IP address binding is on. So that means that my router, when it sees my PlayStation 5 MAC address, it will always keep that IP address. And this will be important. One way or another, you just need to have a verified IP address. Make sure it's the same IP address every single time. So in this case, I've already turned it on. So my IP address is already gonna always be 172, okay? But one way or another, through either at the PlayStation or on the router, you need to figure out how to set a manual IP address. Now, if you set it on here, you will need to do a router reboot, but not yet. So on my router, and in my case, and this is RT-AC86U by ASUS, and I'm running the Merlin firmware on this router. If you've got an ASUS router, probably your UI looks just like this. If you don't have an ASUS router, you might want to consider it. They're actually a pretty good router. So I'm going to go to WAN over here on the left, and then up at the top, we're going to go to Virtual Server Port Forwarding. One way or another, you need to get to the port forwarding tab on your router. And if you're not sure how to get there, then the portforward.com will actually walk you through exactly how to get there on most routers out there. So you can kind of follow my guide, use that guide, and then between the two, you will get yourself to where you need to go. The next thing we need to do is open 3 port ranges to the IP address that our PlayStation is on. Now, if at any point this sounds way too hard for you, I will show you a top secret, risky way to do this, but it makes it so much easier. Okay, it's not preferred, but it's so much easier. I'll show you that in a minute. So what we want to do is, and I've already set these up here, so I'm going to show you how to set one up. In my case, all I'm going to do is say add profile, and then a window pops up, and there's things that you need to fill in, and there's things that you don't need to fill in. So in my case, you definitely want to set your service to both. You do not want it to be on just TCP or just UDP or other. It definitely has to be on both. And all of these are going to be both. Now, I'm going to set my external port, and the ports that we need to set up are 987 as its own rule, 8572 as its own rule, and then we're going to set up a port range, which is 9295 to 9308. Okay, so those are the ranges that we're trying to set up, the 3. Now I do have that information in the comments down below, so if you're using portforward.com and they're saying now enter the port information, you can look at the description and say, okay, there's the port information that I need to port forward for my portal to work properly. So we're gonna go, let's do the 987 one. So we're gonna add a profile and we're gonna go to both, and the external port is 987. And then you need your IP address of your PlayStation. Now we set that through the PlayStation and or at the router. So in this case, it's 192. Just like that. And then we're gonna hit okay. Now it's probably gonna give me an error because that already exists. I've already put it in, but that's what you're gonna do. You won't get an error. And once you've entered it, it'll show up right here. Now I named mine Portal. You don't have to name it, but if you want to keep it clear what it is, you can name it to whatever you like. So that then we can verify that's there. Both. These are the 3 settings that you need to do. If for your port range, you don't have from to in your settings, then you can do like I've done here and use a colon. So you do the first port number and then colon and then the last port number, and it'll open all the ports in between those 2 ports. Now that's going to handle our port forwarding. You will need to apply the changes and then reboot the router for them to be active. Now I did say that I would show you a top secret, super easy way, which all of the computer guys out there are about to cringe, but somewhere you will also have another tab called DMZ. Now DMZ stands for Demilitarized Zone. And in the case of a router, you basically are going to completely open up that IP address for anything and everything. So you can go on, in my case, yes, and then you just type in the IP address of your PlayStation. In my case, it would be 192.168.50.127. And I would hit apply. And then it's applying, and then it's complete, and then there we go. So now we can see that my PlayStation 5 Slim has a DMZ setting. So that means all the ports are open, and I don't have to go and actually open the ports themselves, because this just opens everything. Now, the risk with this is it opens everything. That means if someone on the internet were to see my IP address and were to see that I had just DMZ'd my PlayStation 5, they could start sending all kinds of attacks to my PlayStation 5. Now, currently the PlayStation 5 is secure enough that I'm not gonna get a virus on it, I'm not gonna get anything like that, but there is a lot of risk, especially if your network's not set up correctly and you accidentally ended up with like your laptop connected to the same IP address as your DMZ, you are gonna be in trouble. So it's not recommended, but if you know for sure that that's gonna always be your PlayStation IP address, you could just enable the DMZ. Now I'm gonna disable the DMZ because I don't wanna leave my PlayStation 5 unlocked like that, but you could if you wanted to. There's risk, it's not very high risk, but there is risk. It's not the preferred way, but if you just can't figure this out and you just can't get it, you can just throw it in the DMZ, be done with it, and it'll work. So now that you've done your port forwarding, you've done all your connection stuff on your PlayStation 5, you've rebooted your router, what next? Well, next you need to go to your PlayStation portal and make sure that you've done your connections properly on there. Now what you want to do on your PlayStation portal is pull up your settings, and you're going to go here to settings, and then you're going to go to network. Now for our network type, we want to set up internet connection, and I'm going to scan for networks. Now you want to make sure that you are connected to your 5 gigahertz connection. So in my case, we found secure connection. That is just a 2.4 gigahertz connection, and I've got secure connection 5G. So that's my 5 gigahertz connection. I've got other connections, my Gears and Tech connection, and I've also got a top secret connection that we're going to talk about shortly. But you definitely want to make sure that you're on a 5 gigahertz connection. Once you know that you're on a 5 gigahertz connection, then you can continue on with playing your PlayStation portal. Now, following all of those connection guides will get you connected to your PlayStation portal at home, on your home network, which is perfect. But what if you're on the go? If you're on the go, you likely have discovered one major problem, and that is when you're connecting to public Wi-Fi hotspots. Public hotspots such as McDonald's would be a very easy one to talk about, such as Starbucks, most hotels, and pretty much anywhere where there's like legit public Wi-Fi. If you've managed to find an unsecured Wi-Fi connection, totally different story. Go ahead and just connect to it and give it a run and see how it works. But on all of those Wi-Fi connections, you're going to have connection errors. And the reason is most of them require you to connect to the Wi-Fi, open up an internet page, and then agree to some sort of terms of service. Now, because the PlayStation Portal does not have a browser built into it, and it's very clear that it doesn't, because a lot of times when you connect to those Wi-Fi connections, they actually have a persistent web page that opens up automatically. The PlayStation Portal has nothing like that, and therefore you are unable to check the I agree box or to confirm acceptance of those rules. And for that reason, the PlayStation Portal will actually give you a complete connection error. Now, there is a fix for this, and I'll show you what that is. That is to get yourself a Google Pixel phone or check if your phone supports this feature. If we pull up our internet settings, I am currently connected to Wi-Fi. So in your case, you want to connect your phone to the Wi-Fi hotspot at the McDonald's, at the coffee shop, at the public, wherever, accept the terms of service on your phone. Then you can open up your personal hotspot option. Now, your personal hotspot, particularly on the Google Pixel phone line, has the ability to actually be connected to Wi-Fi and turn that Wi-Fi into a hotspot itself. Now, most phones do not support this functionality, but with updates, it's likely that they will start to include this functionality because Google's doing it, so everyone else will start to do it. So even if your phone doesn't do it right now, you can upgrade to a Pixel 8. We have a full review on that on a different video. or just wait until your phone supports it. But if it supports it, all you do is turn on the Wi-Fi hotspot, and then you would connect your portal to your phone's hotspot, which is using the Wi-Fi at that public place, the McDonald's, the coffee shop, the whatever. Now, it's not going to be the most ideal connection, but we have the best connection possible at home, having our PlayStation with the proper ports forwarded and everything, so that the connection from your PlayStation to the internet is as good as possible. After that, your job is to get the best wireless connection to your portal that is possible. At those public places, the hotspot is going to be the best option. If your phone does not support the ability to have a Wi-Fi hotspot broadcast back over Wi-Fi, then likely you're going to be doing a 5G hotspot connection, which is not ideal. And in a few short moments, I'm going to actually show you a real life example of the different hotspot connections through Wi-Fi at home, through Wi-Fi tethered from your phone, and through 5G tethered from your phone, so you can see the differences. And we'll talk about kind of what the PlayStation Portal does to enhance the experience even with crappy internet connections. But that basically covers all of the connectivity options that you have when you're out on the go. You're gonna have your own Wi-Fi, if you can. You're gonna have a hotspot Wi-Fi, or you're gonna have a 5G hotspot from your phone. Those are the real options that you've got. So how do you decide which one's best? Well, let's do an actual play test of a game using all of those connections. So the game that I'm gonna play is this guy, which is Far Cry 6. Now we are on the Wi-Fi connection in my house. This is the 5 gigahertz connection. And what you're gonna find is it's pretty clear. As far as the resolution goes, input lag, and all of that, it's really non-existent at all here. And it's really good. I can jump around, there's no screen tearing, the graphics are full resolution. If I switch guns, it switches fine. It does everything exactly how you expect. We're gonna switch our settings to my Pixel 8 Pro. Now, my Pixel 8 Pro it's taking my wireless internet and just rebroadcasting it. So this should still be a pretty good connection. The portal is obviously complaining about having disconnected, so it's gonna just reconnect. And then here we are back in the game. Now this is using my wireless internet right now. I've turned my regular connection off, and right off the bat, I am getting more lag. And what you might have noticed is a decrease in graphics quality. That is one of the tricks that the PlayStation uses to keep the experience good. Now, definitely noticeable lag here, but still playable. So you can see my button pushes work okay, but there's a noticeable lag. And if I keep jumping around and moving around, you'll notice like if I move quickly, the screen goes a little blocky. Now, that's not ideal, but it is still playable through that Wi-Fi hotspot. The next thing I'm gonna do is go back to my phone. I'm gonna turn on my 5G and I'm gonna turn off my Wi-Fi. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna make, so you can see my Wi-Fi is off, my 5G is on. I'm gonna do a speed test on my phone real quick just to see what kind of speed I'm getting on my 5G connection, so that we know kind of what our minimum is. So even though I'm in a basement in a dark dungeon in this studio talking with you guys, I am still getting about 73 megabits per second. That should be enough. The big thing will be the ping rate, which my ping's 38 milliseconds. It's not that bad, but my PlayStation's complaining about losing connection. So let's see if it'll connect back up here. Now it might take a little longer to connect because now it's going from Wi-Fi to my phone, from my phone to outer space, and from outer space to a server somewhere, and then back to my PlayStation. Now, unfortunately, I can't even show you the cellular connection because down in the basement here, it's just not connecting. I have used this out on the go. I've used it kind of in public places. It does work. It's not ideal. It's really not ideal, but it will work. Now, why does it work? It works because the PlayStation Portal actually will adjust your Wi-Fi connectivity. It'll adjust the frame rate. It'll adjust the resolution so that you can get the best experience while having a relatively smooth frame rate. And we saw that when we connected through the Wi-Fi hotspot, where it was getting a little blocky sometimes. It was maybe having a little bit of delay, and it added more like motion blur and that sort of thing. And those are some tricks that it employs so that you can actually use the device. So at home, flawless experience. On the go, you gotta just have those expectations in line. If your Wi-Fi is not that great, your experience is gonna suffer slightly. But if you follow the tricks shown in this video, you can be sure that you have the best connection possible and the best experience because of that. Hey, thanks for watching all the way to the end of this video. We hope you enjoy the content in this video, and we'd love to have you come back. Consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And for those subscribers who are looking for that extra special thing that you can do to support this channel, consider joining our members group. That's where we're building this community, the Gears and Tech community, where we can all enjoy content together. You'll get special perks, which we'd love for you to check out by clicking the link down below. For those of you who are just happy to watch the video, that's okay too. You can check out some of our other content right over here, where we've got some previous videos that have already been uploaded and enjoyed by many of our viewers already. We do hope to see you again. This has been Gears and Tech. Have a great day.